All right, everybody, welcome back to Talk Tickers. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Deere & Company's Q1 2025 earnings call.
That's right. We're talking about big green tractors, combines, and the global agriculture landscape.
Yeah, so for anybody who maybe hasn't looked at this earnings call yet, Deere's equipment operations reported a 7.7% operating margin.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. However, net sales and revenues fell about 30%, down to $8.58 billion.
So a good chunk of that sales decline is coming from lower shipment volumes, especially in North America, where it looks like market uncertainty is making some folks think twice about big equipment purchases.
Yeah, and it's not even just people not wanting to buy as much. They actually dialed back production in certain segments.
Right.
Like their earth-moving equipment, and they're trying to trim down that field inventory.
Yeah, they're trying to be as flexible as possible in what is a pretty volatile market right now.
For sure, for sure.
Especially when you consider the strong U.S. dollar making their products more expensive overseas.
Yeah, that always adds another layer of complexity.
It really does.
But it's not all doom and gloom.
No.
It's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Deere's proactive approach to managing their inventory and production is actually paying off for them.
Absolutely. I think that's the right move when you consider the possibility of oversupplying equipment right now.
Makes sense.
And, while North America is going through a little bit of a rough patch, there are some bright spots in other parts of the world.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Brazil specifically is showing some really positive signs. Farmer sentiment is improving, and we're seeing a huge surge in demand for Deere's precision agriculture solutions.
Really?
Yeah, particularly those that are focused on connectivity.
Huh. That's really interesting. So it's almost like they're anticipating a future where farming is all like hyper-connected and data-driven.
Yeah, they're definitely thinking ahead, but like any global company, Deere's got some challenges to face.
Oh, for sure.
A big one is this ongoing uncertainty in the North American market, which is really impacting those order rates. Plus, you've got high interest rates and macroeconomic factors that are kind of putting a damper on demand in both agriculture and construction.
Yeah, can't forget about the competition.
Right.
That construction and forestry segment, they're really facing some stiff competition. And that makes it hard to maintain those premium prices.
Absolutely. And if we look over at farmer profitability, the USDA is predicting a 22% year-over-year increase in U.S. net cash farm income.
Wow, that sounds really good.
Yeah, on the surface it does.
But there's a catch, right?
Well, there's a little bit of a nuance there. While that net income is expected to increase, crop cash receipts are actually projected to decline.
So what's making up the difference then?
Government support programs, they're going to come in and help offset some of that lost farm income.
Gotcha. So it's sort of a mixed bag for those farmers?
Yeah, you could say that.
But there's this underlying hope that a tightening global supply of grain and oilseeds will boost those commodity prices.
That would be great for the farmers, and of course, by extension, it would be great for Deere.
Exactly. And, this is where things get really interesting. Deere's making a big bet on precision agriculture, and it seems to be working.
Especially in places like Brazil, where reliable internet can be a bit hard to come by.
Yeah, they're putting their money where their mouth is. They reported over 1,500 orders for their Precision Ag Essentials kits in Brazil alone, just this past quarter.
Wow.
And over 1,200 orders for that JD Link Boost, the one that uses Starlink satellite technology for connectivity.
Yeah, that's got to be a game changer for farmers in areas with spotty internet.
Totally. But they're not just focused on the shiny and new. They're also being smart about managing their used equipment inventory.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're making some good progress, reducing the surplus of used combines.
Good.
But high horsepower tractors, those are proving a little bit more difficult to move.
Yeah, particularly with a higher proportion of late model equipment in the mix.
Right, because those depreciate slower.
Exactly.
So they're working closely with their dealer network to tackle this challenge.
It'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on that in the coming quarters. And of course, we can't forget about the ever-present tariffs and trade policies.
That's like a constantly shifting landscape, and Deere's right in the middle of it.
Yeah, they're running simulations to figure out how any changes to trade policy could impact their customers and ultimately their bottom line.
It seems like their main goal right now is to push for free and fair trade.
Especially for agricultural products.
Yeah, they get that a stable trade environment is crucial for the health of the whole industry in the long run.
Couldn't agree more. And with their global supply chain and their established manufacturing footprint, Deere seems pretty well equipped to handle these turbulent times.
You know what's really fascinating to me is how they're dealing with these short-term problems while also setting themselves up for this future where agriculture is all about technology.
Yeah.
Their investments in precision agriculture, particularly in those markets like Brazil, really show their long-term vision.
It makes you wonder, could this growing adoption of technology in agriculture actually change the way we think about food production on a global scale?
That's a really interesting question and one that I think is worth considering. This deep dive has definitely given us a lot to think about.
For sure. But before we get too lost in the big picture, let's have a little fun and move on to our This Is Not Financial Advice segment.
Oh, yes, let's brainstorm some bold, maybe even outrageous trade ideas inspired by what we've learned today.
All right, let's do it.
So we've kind of set the stage here. What stood out to you from all this?
I think the thing that really struck me is this balancing act Deere's doing between dealing with the challenges of today and betting on the future of agriculture.
Right, it's like short term versus long term.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On one hand, you've got them navigating market uncertainty, managing inventory carefully, but on the other hand, they're putting serious resources into precision agriculture and technology development.
It's almost like they're playing chess,
Hmm.
thinking several moves ahead.
Totally. They're not just reacting to the market. They're trying to actively shape the future of the industry.
It is a really fascinating approach, and that long-term vision is clear when you look at their efforts to reduce that field inventory.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a gamble, but it shows they're pretty confident in their ability to anticipate and meet future demand.
You know, you keep mentioning field inventory. What exactly are we talking about here?
Yeah, good point. So basically, field inventory refers to all that unsold equipment that's sitting out there, whether it's at dealerships or in storage.
Okay.
It's basically the stuff they've already produced but haven't sold yet.
So they're trying to avoid having too much unsold equipment on hand just in case demand drops even more.
Exactly. It's all about finding that sweet spot between supply and demand.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, they also talked about the success of JD Link Boost, their satellite connectivity solution.
Oh, yeah.
I get how that's huge for farmers in remote areas, but what are the real benefits besides just having internet access out in the field?
Well, the cool thing about JD Link Boost is that it allows for real-time data transfer between the equipment and the farmer's management systems.
Okay.
So they can track the location of their equipment monitor, fuel consumption, analyze performance data, and even get alerts if there's a problem.
So it's not just about staying connected, it's about using that connection to make better decisions and run things more efficiently.
Exactly. It's about bringing the power of data and analytics right out to the farm, which can mean higher profits for the farmers.
I can see why there's so much interest in that down in Brazil.
Yeah, they're really hitting the mark with that one.
Now, what about their efforts to manage all that used equipment? They seem to be doing okay with the combines, but those high horsepower tractors are a tougher sell.
Yeah, it's a bit of a puzzle, isn't it? Part of the challenge is that a lot of that used tractor inventory is made up of newer models.
Yeah, which means they hold their value longer.
Exactly. So they depreciate slower. And that puts a bit of pressure on their financial performance, but they're not just sitting around. They're working closely with their dealers to come up with marketing programs and sales incentives to get those used tractors moving.
I bet we'll hear more about that in future earnings calls.
Yeah.
Now, we can't really ignore the elephant in the room, the tariffs and trade policy.
It's a big one, and it's constantly changing. Deere is definitely keeping a close eye on things.
Yeah, they're running all sorts of scenarios to figure out how any changes to trade policy could affect their business.
Their main focus right now seems to be advocating for free and fair trade, especially for agricultural products.
Yeah, makes sense. A stable trade environment is good for everybody in the long run.
Absolutely. Any kind of protectionist policies can end up disrupting supply chains, raising prices, and hurting economic growth.
It's a tough balancing act for policymakers, for sure. Now, before we wrap up this section, I wanted to touch on Deere's push into precision agriculture.
Right back to the future.
They mentioned these precision ag essentials kits.
Huh?
What are those exactly, and how do they fit into their overall strategy?
So those kits are basically bundles of hardware and software that give farmers a starting point for getting into precision agriculture.
Okay.
They usually include things like GPS receivers, sensors, and software subscriptions that let farmers collect and analyze data from their fields.
So it's like a way to make precision ag more accessible and affordable for farmers who might not be ready to invest in all the fancy high-tech equipment.
Exactly. It's about breaking down those barriers and showing the value of precision agriculture in a way that makes sense for farmers.
It's a pretty smart strategy, especially if they're trying to expand into new markets.
It also ties in nicely with their focus on customer education and support. Deere isn't just selling equipment, they're building a whole ecosystem around precision agriculture with training programs and support services.
And don't forget that network of dealers.
Right. They're all there to help farmers get the most out of these new technologies.
I'm sensing a theme here. Deere seems to be playing the long game, investing in the future while also addressing the challenges of today.
It's a really compelling story, and it'll be fascinating to see how it all unfolds. But for now, let's switch gears and have some fun with our This Is Not Financial Advice segment.
Okay, time to put on our speculation hats. You ready for this? Okay, so what if we short Deere stock and go long on Brazilian coffee futures?
Whoa, hold on there. That's a pretty bold move. Why Brazilian coffee?
Well, Deere mentioned that the coffee market in Brazil is booming right now, and that's driving demand for their smaller tractors.
Right.
But what if that boom goes bust? Coffee prices could crash, which would hurt those Brazilian farmers and their ability to buy new equipment from Deere.
I see.
Meanwhile, Deere's overall business is diversified enough that they might be able to weather that storm.
That's a very interesting thought. It really highlights how interconnected these global markets are and how something that seems unrelated can actually have a ripple effect on a company like Deere.
Exactly. It's all about connecting those dots and seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But of course, folks, this is just a fun thought experiment. Remember, this is not financial advice. Do your own research before making any investment decisions.
Absolutely.
All right, that wraps up another deep dive into the world of earnings calls.
Yeah.
Hopefully you found this one insightful, and as always, happy investing.
Yeah.